Hello, it is me. For today's video, I'm just going to be talking about underwater archaeology, and I'm going to be using a specific example, a specific incident that's happened several hundred years ago here in South Africa, and I'm just going to be talking about underwater archaeology, sort of the critiques, how it's done, what are the limitations, and how it can be improved, basically. So first, I'm just going to be talking through, the story behind this particular incident that happened in 1852, the significance of it, what it's done, for future years, and talking about the archaeology behind it. So let's just get straight into the HMS Birkenhead. So, let's talk about the story behind the HMS Birkenhead. So, in the annals of maritime history, the name HMS Birkenhead is etched in memory for tragic and yet remarkable reasons. This British Royal Navy ship, which wrecked off the coast of South Africa in 1852, became the subject of both historical lore and a powerful lesson in courage and sacrifice. The HMS Birkenhead was a relatively new vessel of its time, known for being one of the first iron-hulled warships. Its ill-fated voyage was during the Second Anglo-Boer War, as it transported British soldiers and their families to South Africa. Little did anyone know on board that the ship would soon face a catastrophe that would go down in history. And so the story goes, on the fateful night of February 26, 1852, the HMS Birkenhead struck an underwater rock near Danger Point in Gans Bay. The impact tore a massive hole in the hull, sending shockwaves of panic and despair throughout the ship. What followed, however, was a display of unparalleled discipline and heroism. Now, as the Birkenhead began to sink rapidly, Captain Robert Salmond, his commanding officer issued a stark command that would become legendary: women and children first. This directive was more than just a polite suggestion. It was a testament to the code of conduct in the British Navy during that era. The officers and men of the ship adhered to this, and with unwavering determination, stood firm. And so the soldiers on board stood at attention, even as the ship was sinking beneath them. Their actions followed the women and children to board the few lifeboats available. It was a harrowing scene of selflessness, as many soldiers willingly accepted their fate, choosing to drown rather than risk their lives of their loved ones. Now, tragically, over 400 lives out of about 600 were lost in this disaster, and the survivors owed their lives to the brave and disciplined actions of those aboard the HMS Birkenhead. The wreck was not just a story of loss, but also a story of heroism, sacrifice, and devotion of duty. This tragedy became a poignant example of the steadfast adherence to the principles and honor of chivalry in the face of adversity. Now, the story of the HMS Birkenhead wreck has left a lasting impression on naval traditions, and it is often cited as the origin of women and children first. It serves as a reminder of the extraordinary bravery and selflessness that humans are capable of in the direst of circumstances. And so the wreck of the HMS Birkenhead is a tragic but inspiring chapter in naval history. It showcases the incredible courage and discipline of the men on board, who put the lives of women and children before their own. This remarkable act of heroism is a testament to the enduring values of duty, sacrifice, and honor, and it continues to be a symbol of the noblest aspects of human nature, even in the face of disaster. And so, while that's a very short summary of quite a lengthy story that has a lot of research that's been done on it, and I have done this research as well, and so I thought maybe I'd share one or two of these findings, essentially. Now, it's important to note that the ship was sending soldiers to go to war, and so the lives lost kind of seems like a waste, really. That, these soldiers who were meant to, and were sort of bred and born and signed up to go and die in battle, ended up dying before they even got there. And it was the captain of the ship that has been critiqued, because he did send out an order to reverse the ship after the ship crashed into the rocks. It kind of just was stuck on the rock, and ordered the ship to reverse. And when the ship reversed, that's when water sort of started gushing in. And I mean, there's a story that once the water started gushing in, about 100 lives were already lost, and these were the sleeping soldiers that were just drowned immediately. Everyone else sort of got dressed in their uniform, if they hadn't been in uniform already, and made their way up. And the women and children, now, there were lifeboats. Every ship has lifeboats. The issue was that these lifeboats and sort of the ropes and the mechanisms involved were not serviced well enough. And so when they tried, releasing more lifeboats, the rope snapped. The ropes failed, and due to the positioning of the ship was already tilting on its side. Only 3 lifeboats could make it through. And all these soldiers could do was stand at attention and accept their fate, wait for the ship to go down, and luckily enough, but it could have been a lot worse, but the women and children, sort of deemed the most vulnerable, or the most, I'm not sure what's the word here, but the most vulnerable in these kinds of situations, they were deemed to go out first, while the men just sort of stood and watched. Another interesting point is that out of the approximately 400 people that died, out of this approximately 600, not everyone died through drowning. So we've established that, yes, about 100 immediately drowned, and so there's still 300 left. And the other 300, there were a few that drowned after the ship sank. There were a few that tried to swim for shore and drowned there. There were a few that tried to hang on to bits and pieces of the ship floating and eventually drowned. But one of the most scariest bits is that Danger Point is quite known for its sharks, for its great whites, and that's kind of what happened. A lot of sailors were eaten through the night by sharks, and the next day, in fact, there was a rescue ship that was sent out, and the rescue ship did find some survivors who made it to land. They did find the 3 lifeboats with the women and children. They found a few people clinging on, and quite gruesomely, they found body halves and limbs, and just bits and pieces of human, floating in and around them. At least what's left of them after the sharks got to them. And so for part 2, I'm just going to put up a few pictures, talk you through them, kind of just express, what happened, and then I'll be talking about the archaeology, and